magazine talk show where your voice matters. Today we have a special guest who is the founder of Derae Entertainment out of Miami, Florida. He is a promoter and booking agent for many professional gospel artists. Let's welcome everyone, the fabulous, the fantastic Ricky Derae. How are you doing?
Good. I'm happy to be here. Just happy to be here, Miss Teresa. Just looking forward to have a good interview with you, and just thank God for another day.
Amen. I agree with you. And look, it is a pleasure and an honor. I count it as a privilege as well to be able to interview the man who books for all these different professional gospel artists. Look, so let's just go ahead and let's start into the conversation, Ricky. I wanted to ask you, or better yet, for you to share with us your experience in the gospel industry. How did you become involved?
Well, I've been in the gospel arena about 51 years now.
Oh, wow.
I started when I was 15 years old. Matter of fact, tell the truth, it was 13. And I'm from New York. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, but I was raised up in Long Beach, Long Island, New York, and Freeport, Long Island, New York. And I graduated from Millville, Long Island, High Power Hill. But ever since I've been a little boy, say by the age of about 5 or 6, I've always loved the quartet music, gospel. And my first inspiring record was the Reverend Julius Cheeks and the Nightingales. Had since standing at the judgment, got to be trial. So, when we were little kids, we were raised up singing a song in the church, the little storefront churches, and I always sung that song. And I always wanted to meet him, be a quartet singer. And when I got to the age about 13 years old, I met a couple of gentlemen, Mr. Tommy Hines and Mr. Charles Cleveland, known as Big Nick. And they was the gospel time. I thought they was major artists. I used to hear all the major artists on the radio in New York when I was a little boy. Brother from Joe Crane, Joe Foster, they would play all the music, So I thought they were like somebody like the Mighty Clouds, Joe, the Pioneers, but there was a good local group. But in that time, from 13 to 15, they turned to be a professional group. And they came to my house, asked my mother could she could take, could I go around with them? So I started out being a valet. I started out being back in them days, you had to bring your own equipment, and so they had equipment. I'm loading amplifiers, drum sets, but I didn't want to stay like that because I wanted to sing. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't harmonize at that time, but I stayed with it. And then when I graduated from high school, I started developing my sound of singing. And being around the gospel heavyweights, I knew all these songs by word. Then I started putting it in the tune. Then I learned how to harmonize. Mm-hmm. And when I started, about 19 years old, I started singing. And boy, that's history. And I started singing with Wakes, Big Nick. I started with the valet. Then I started singing. And then the years progressing down the road, after 2 or 3 years I started singing, I became like the acting manager. Oh. So now, I've been with this group now, starting as a valet, a singer, not an acting manager, because I always had the gift to go farther. My dream was always to go farther, and not to stay still, progress. Mm-hmm. And I stayed with the guy from from the Valley, I would say from 1973 to 1986. And so 1986, I was led, my spirit said, I'm tired of just doing this because I didn't see myself progressing in life. We used to go on the road, be out there for 2 or 3 weeks, come home with no money. I've been with that. Now we'd be 4 and 5 of us in a room eating bologna, chicken. You know, but when you're a young man, you're having fun, and you know, and that was a part of me, and I had the passion for it. You don't mind, but when you get older, you know, you start to realize you need insurance. You need somewhere you can call your home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the spirit just led me down. Spirit just led me down to Miami, and when I came down to Miami in '86, I started working at a place called Studio 183. And Studio 183 at the time was the main avenue for black entertainment. All the R&B artists would come there, like Johnny Taylor, Tyrone Davis, Bobby Blue Bland, and they would play at this place called Studio 183 in Miami Gardens. And it was a room that holds about 3,000. They had a jazz club on the side, and they had a nightclub in the back. So when I got down here in '86, my third day, a friend of mine that she knew, one of the managers, went there and said, you know, my man, he would like to work. And she told me I just came off the road, you know, singing. And I started working. My first show I worked there was the Johnny Taylor show. And I met Johnny Taylor, and we started talking, and I told him I was gospel singer, and some of the people that he knew in gospel, I knew. And then, you know, one thing led, and met Tyrone Davis. So the manager said, man, you know gospel? You know how to promote gospel? I said, yeah. Because I learned from the best. That was Big Dan. We call him Big Dan, the gospel man.
Okay.
And in those days and time, you was you had to come through Big Dan because he's had blocks on the Apollo Theater. See, the Apollo Theater used to go on the Apollo Theater sing for a whole week. They used to take the gospel keynote, Shirley Caesar, gospel airs, and they'd come in on a Tuesday night and stay all the way to that Monday. And I see how Big Dan would promote. Washington Temple was a mainstream for gospel back in them days up in New York, Symphony Hall. So if you want to be a professional singer, you had to go through them venues, and you had to be good. So I learned how to do that. So I took my vision of the business part down to Miami. And so when he asked me that I know how to promote gospel, I said, yeah. So he said, okay. So Studio 183 had all lines of entertainment, R&B, comedy, blues, and I was the avenue for the gospel. And so when I got down here in '86, gospel was only going to the school gyms, you know, auditoriums. You know, it wasn't no big crowd like it is today. And so I visualized I could take this to another level. I was looking. So my first show I did was in 1987 with the Monty Clouds of Georgia. That was my favorite group. And at the time, tickets you was getting $79 for a gospel ticket, and you had 5 major, 6, sometimes 6 major groups for $79. You know, so I got down my first program. I took the Monty Clouds of Georgia, raised the ticket price just by themselves. I think it was $11 and $13. They told me I was crazy. So there was a promoter down here at the time named Mr. Butler, and I called Mr. Butler. I said, Mr. Butler, I said, I want to bring in the Monty Clouds of Georgia, but I know you are the promoter of Miami, and I know the other promoter in Fort Lauderdale. I said, will this conflict with anything? He said, oh, no, come on in. So I booked his group, right? I thought I had everybody. You know how it is. You know, when you promote, you think you're trying to get everybody. So make a long story short, I booked the show, my first show. Johnny Martin of the Monty Clouds of Georgia, the manager, he passed away. I booked the show with him, but he passed away a month after I booked the show with him.
Oh, wow.
So I said, I got a little scared on that. So about 5 weeks before my show, Mr. Butler, which was the main promoter, he booked a gospel show on top of my show. And he booked one that Friday night. And I got the show that Sunday. And so his show, he had, I never forget, he had Slim Supreme Angels, the Pioneers, Tommy Ellison, and the Swanee Quintet for $79. 7 advance and 9 at the door. I was scared. I just had the clouds, and it was 11 and 13. I said, man. And I went to him, I said, I asked you what you know, that ain't gonna hurt you. Nah. He was trying to, you know how that it is. But he didn't know. I knew how to promote. He didn't know I knew how to promote. So at the time, promoters like them, they would go to the station with $200 or $300. I went to the station with $1,500. I laid his cash on the table. And then not only I just advertised in the gospel arena, I went to the R&B side and spent and advertised. Went to BET and spent and advertised with the flyers and promoters and flyers and posters. So my ticket wasn't moving. But when I went to the show, his show that Friday night, all the groups that see me, because they knew me from New York, and they know the group I used to, they said, you're going to have a monster. That's all we hearing. We ain't hearing nothing about this show here. So I went to the show. He only had about, at that time, he had about maybe 200 or 300 people. Mm-hmm. So he didn't know what to, but I was scared to death because that Sunday morning, I went to the building. I only had sold 120 tickets. And I got to pay. So, I'm worried to death. But let me tell you something. Around 11 o'clock that day, that Saturday morning, to showtime, people started coming in buying tickets. And I did about almost 900 people buying tickets that day. So I ended up almost with 1,000 people. And that, they ain't never seen that. And so Mr. Bullock got on stage, hey, I want to tell everybody, Mr. Derae and I, we working together. Where's Rick? Come on up to the stage. He had to be coming up to the stage. I said, we working together, but that was my first show. And then my second concert down here was Shirley Caesar. That 2 months later. And then I kept promoting. And then had a friend of mine, he's gone, Mr. Donnell Box. He wanted to do a show with me. And we decided to put Shirley Caesar and the Mighty Clouds of Joy together in 1989. And that's what really put the mark for gospel concerts in South Florida. We put them together, and a week before the show, we had broke even. I mean, we were selling 200 and 300 tickets a day. It was scary, but we thought about going to the James Hill Nights, and it was a 4,000 seater, but we never seen gospel do that. Mm-hmm. And we messed around and oversold the building.
Oh wow! Well, that still was a blessing, though.
But it's bad when people got tickets and the air condition went that Sunday. Oh Lord! Wow. 300 people was in there, so we had to give back $10,000 that day, and the week after the show we had to give back another $5,000. But that put the mark of gospel concerts in South Florida, and it's been growing ever since. Then I started working them groups. Then me and Mr. Box and I, we decided to split, and he did his thing and I did mine, and I kept going.
That is awesome and a great story. It sounds like you need to write a book. Yeah, I think you should write that book. Now, let me ask you this though. I think that's really great how you actually got started and from where you are right now. But I want to touch bases on, because you and I had an opportunity to speak a couple of days ago, and we spoke about quartet music. I am definitely a quartet person. I was raised on quartet, and and I really don't like defining the different categories of gospel music, because I feel like this here, if you love God, it shouldn't be, well, this is quartet, this is traditional, contemporary, classical, what have you. I mean, I just feel like gospel music should just be that you love God and you just singing to, to embrace other people in so many different ways and to bring them closer to God. However, so if we're gonna go ahead and define the different categories of gospel music, then speaking of quartet, really, that's really what we all were really raised on. It was like that bass or foot stomping. That's where it all really kind of really started from. But I know, like I said, the conversation that you and I had in reference to why is it that people recognize quartet music, but I don't, is people have different perspective about it. And I think it's because they look at how people, or they try to say, different, I guess I might as well go ahead and spill it out. But how certain people, men, how they, how they react and how they, when they are out singing somewhere, people always try to recognize someone's demeanor or their character. But in all honesty, none of us are perfect. And we all have some type of, you can say, perspective, or how a Christian person should be or not be. But for whatever reason, this quartet, they, for some reason, people just feel like they're just not right, and they don't really bring it forefront as I grew up, on quartet music. So, really, like I said, I'm going to just say gospel music, period. However, but if we're going to go ahead and define it as quartet, that's what I'm gonna go ahead and say, because I know that's what everyone does. But what is it, and why do you think that the change, has taken place with quartet music? Why is it that people don't look at it as being acceptable? I think that's the right way to phrase that.
Well, to answer your question, the main thing is the business part.
Mm-hmm.
It's the business. It started from back in the day. Let's go back in the late 40s or late 30s and the 30s. Mm-hmm. You didn't have contemporary gospel. Nobody knew about contemporary gospel. Right. Contemporary gospel comes from message songs. If you want to get deep into it, Clara Ward. Remember Clara Ward and the Ward Saints?
Yes, I do.
They was the first one that played Las Vegas. Then you had the Stapler singers, and the Stapler singers was singing message songs, which turned to be down through the years when Hawkins came along with "Oh Happy Day." He brought that style because it hit mainstream. But still, you had Mahalia Jackson out there. You had the Ward singing. You had all the great gospel singers. But what happened to quartet music? This is nobody don't want to admit it, but this is the truth. Quartet music was one time the main avenue for gospel.
Are you a business owner and looking for an opportunity to network and collaborate with other like-minded professionals, executives, and community leaders? Well, look no further. Exposure Spotlight Magazine has launched its business network group, and you're invited to join us where your business can grow. Just look for us on Facebook at Exposure Spotlight Magazine Business Network Group.
But this is the truth. Quartet music was one time the main avenue for gospel.
Mm-hmm.
You had your choirs out there, James Cleveland, Isaac Doug, all them boys. But James Cleveland and them got together and incorporate the workshops. Quartet didn't want to join that. They didn't want that. They were satisfied running up and down the road for some chicken. But not being at the table where the business was going to help them down through the years. Like, they don't want to admit it, but I know. So what James Cleveland and them did, they formed this workshop where a lot of the choirs from James Cleveland camp was put in these different radio stations all around. And if you go to a radio station now, Cox Radio or Cox Media, Infinity, or AHA, and you look at the gospel, who's working the gospel shows now, you don't have nobody that sings quartet or being fillable or affiliated with quartet in there. It's all the people that's on praise and worship, the choirs, contemporary. They are in a quartet. It's not at the table. You have no quartet. So what happened? The top groups out there when James Cleveland was doing it, the top quartet groups out there was the Mighty Clouds, the Joy, the Volunteers, Stars, Soul Stirrers. Those were your top group, but they didn't join in with the James Cleveland party over there. So when James Cleveland got all, in a different radio, the Bigs and Six, they pushed quartet music back. The Cloud was able to succeed because they had a manager. It's all about the business. They had a manager that was from the field. They had a Jew that would know how to get around that. So so the split really came contemporary gospel. They always say Andre Crouch is the father of contemporary music. No, he's not. It's really Edwin Hawkins. That's the father of contemporary. But they was all performed with James Cleveland. When the Mighty Clouds of Joy came out with #1 record, Time, All We Need is a Little More Time. People in gospel thought they had left gospel music. Then they came out with Mighty High. Those are all message songs. So then come Andre Crouch started singing and stuff, and they got into business. Never got into business. They try to handle themselves. They try to book themselves. They didn't have no PR person. Mighty Clouds of Joy had that. But they were making more money. They was on the other side. They were touring with Aretha Franklin, James Brown, Earth, Wind and Fire, Rolling Stone, TV shows. So you don't classify them, but the rest of the group, like the Gospel Keynotes, excellent group. The Volunteers, excellent. They didn't have the business part. When Malaco came along, before Frank Williams left, the Malaco was a quartet label. But when Frank Williams came there and changed that tune with the Mississippi Mass and all of that, and took that, it's all the business. Quartet, it's not what they can do. They can perform. You put a good quartet show, you put a good quartet group on with a good contemporary group, you're gonna see who's gonna come out. But the contemporary artists get more of promotions and recognition because they're exposure. They got the business. They get paid more revenue. And see, and each area changed. So the 70s, the quartet music was dying out. 80s, they maintained, but they were dying. They're gonna miss all the bad choirs. Edwin Hawkins, the Clark Sisters, the Whining. Got to get the Winans a lot of credit. They helped change the mold. Clark Sisters, they helped change mold. But then when it got in the 90s, it was a different step. In the 90s, there comes John P. Key. The Key records started getting played on R&B more than gospel. He was the man. Then he stayed there for a few years. Here comes Kirk Franklin, and another level. Matter of fact, when Stomp came out, George Clinton, I worked with, like I told you earlier on the show, I worked with a lot of artists. Gospel, comedy, R&B, hip hop. And before Stomp come out, George Clinton said, I got a young man want to record one of my songs. He couldn't think up the name. I ain't paying no attention to George Clinton because they were out there here. But anyway, the record came out 2 months. That's Kirk Franklin. He took it to another level. And then they got in the business part. And then my friend Al Walsh in the 90s started taking gospel and putting a production behind it, leaving the quartets out and putting the production behind Kirk Franklin, Fred Hammond, Yolanda. That was the big tour. Them tours were drawn. So the bottom line on quartet, yes, they could sing, yes, but they just didn't have the business, and still yet don't have the business like they should have. And the people that do play gospel on the top radio station, I'm not talking about mom and pop, they're not into it. But a lot of preachers came from quartet. A lot of musicians that play for Babyface and all of them R&B groups, it comes from quartet. Quartet is never will die, but it needs to have the business part. There's the business, that's what hurt quartet.
I can say agree with you a lot on that. But so on that note, how and what can we do to make some changes? What is it that you think that can be done to change to where we have gospel quartet acknowledged more than it has been, or that it is rather? What is it that on our end that we can possibly do?
Well, we have
change with that.
Number one, you have to be at the table where they're at. You have to invest in yourself. Like the quartets, they have to invest. They don't like investing in themselves. They want into them. Like, you have a show now. You're a promoter, and you go. You ask them, you book them. You ask them to make the interviews. You ask them to help you promote it. You don't get no help, and they don't like to invest in themselves. If I was a new group now, you have to work on your craft.
Don't you find that? I think that's an issue with whether they sing quartet or sing anything. People in general. I've been in the industry myself for a long time, working with all different types of talent. And I just find that to be a fault in quite a few people. They don't want to invest in themselves, period. I ask the question all the time, how is it that you expect someone else to invest in you when you don't want to do it in yourself? I mean, like, really?
Right.
And so...
the quartet groups want the promoters to invest in them. They want the promoters to do all the work. They send you the CD, they expect for you to get it played, they expect for you to pay them, they expect for you to do the promotion. They just come inside the town. They don't want to do no interview. They just come in town and sing and leave. That's not right. Because promoters don't make you. You have to make yourself.
Amen. That's right. That's right.
Only reason why a promoter gets you is so you can draw.
Right.
You
right.
can't draw.
You can't draw. You can. That's another thing. You shouldn't even expect a certain amount of money. You get what you get what you draw.
Get what you draw. And that goes for contemporary gospel. That goes for them contemporary gospel singers. They asking, even contemporary, they asking for 15 to 30, some of them 40, some of them 50, some of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of money.
Right.
And gospel is not like that, like it used to. Now, gospel were real strong in the 90s.
Yeah.
It was strong, man. I seen some big shows. I even took gospel in the casino and had over 5,000. But now you don't got too many gospel artists that cross the mainstream. When you hit that mainstream and you get 300 and 400 spins a month, you mainstream, okay? You report it. And there ain't too many gospel singers getting that now. But they're asking for big money. And they take you through to so many chains. And promoter, man, we catch the devil. And that's with a lot of groups that stay home. I'm at my career that I'm not gonna beg nobody, you know. If I don't see make it, let somebody else bring it in. Because it's hard doing it. But going back to the quartet, you got to invest in yourself. You know, you can, like, I want to come down to you, Sister Teresa. Yeah, we're looking forward. Well, what's your fee? 5,000, 8 rooms, this and that. You can't do that unless you just got the money.
Right.
You know, got to invest. They have to be at the table. They need to be to these seminars. They need to be where them Stellas at and get to meet the peoples and network with these folks. And I'm quite sure that it'll help. It'll help.
Yeah, I agree. So, are you accepting any new artists on your roster?
Yeah, I got 2 of them, 2 to 3 where I can see potential. Young man is Scholar Patterson.
Oh, okay.
Our scholars are very nice, and he's easy to work with, and got a good group. Derae Pettis, and I forgot the name of his group. Very good group. Very good group. I see potentials in them. Some Lil Roy, he's going to be a favorite. Lil Roy. Let me see. You got the McKenzie. I never worked with them. You got Tammy Edwards. You ever heard of Tammy Edwards?
Yeah, and the Edwards sisters or something.
You got them glorified, nice young ladies, young female gospel group. So you got quite a few. I don't know name by name, but yes, I'll see things in them if they can be workable. Mm-hmm. If they can be workable, like. I don't want to, call you and say I ain't gonna give you no, because it takes revenue to make it, and the group got to have passion. If you don't have passion for this game, loyalty, get out. Yeah. Even being a promoter, just get out.
Yep, you gotta enjoy what you do. Absolutely. So tell everyone, our listening audience, how they can follow you on social media.
You can follow me on social media on Facebook. My name is Ricky Derae. I got 3 pages. You get me on Instagram, Ricky Derae. You can get me on TikTok, Ricky Derae, or you can email me at rickyderae57@gmail.com.
Awesome. Look, I really enjoyed this conversation with you, and I'm looking to have another one perhaps in the near future. And we're looking for you to work with Unique in some form or fashion, our little group.
Down in Miami.
Yes.
Down in Miami. And I want to thank you for having the Mighty Clouds of Joy there, I believe it was last week. And they were very exciting, and we're looking to come back to Hampton for you as well. You're doing excellent.
Yes, most certainly. I really enjoyed them. I received a great report, reviews on them. I received plenty of phone calls and text messages where, most of all, I think they were shocked People were shocked to hear how well that they sound. But I told them already, though, that they would have thought that Joe Lagun was on that stage when they heard Ron Staples, and not to mention his brother, because his brother is awesome as well. But they all sounded good. Jeremiah even sounds like Joe Lagun. I mean, they all are good. Pastor Tim Woodson, Johnny Valentine. Look, I enjoyed it, and definitely we're going to bring them back to Louisiana. We're definitely going to do that, no doubt.
All right.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you keeping that good quartet music alive down in Hampton.
Listen, in Hammond, yes. Listen, I have to, because like I said, I was raised on quartet music. I think since we're going to define, the category of gospel music, I was raised on it. I used to travel and go with my parents every time that there was a gospel concert. And, and you mentioned back in the day, I guess we don't have to tell our age, but anyway, I remember those moments that I would go and hear the Mighty Clouds of Joy, and they would have all of those groups on one package. The Volunteers, the Pilgrim Jubilees, and Spencer Taylor, they would all be on one package, and you just don't see that too much. I mean, to a certain extent you do, but not like talking about it,
You can't afford to put them all in one package.
You're right. You're right about that. Now you're talking. You're absolutely correct, but it would be a blessing if that could change a little bit. Then maybe we'll see more of it. I don't know, but listen, I enjoyed this conversation. I really did, and like I said, I'm looking for another opportunity of doing an interview with you, because I know as time permits that there's going to be something that we're going to be able to talk about. But I want to leave this with you. We have a motto, and I want you to know, because you're in the gospel industry, that your voice matters. Always keep that before you, that your voice matters. It matters to me. It matters to the listening audience, because on a daily basis, especially those that are involved in gospel music, it is very important to hear advice coming from a trailblazer such as yourself, and a pioneer as well. So greatly appreciate you, Mr. Ricky.
Appreciate you, and you be blessed. And I'll tell you, I always lead this word. You don't have no worries. All you need is faith in God.
All right. Praise God. Praise God. Thank you. Are you looking for the key to your castle? Choose a mortgage company that works for you. Ambassador Mortgage. Healthy is an outfit that looks different on everybody. Healthy isn't a goal, it's a way of living. Treat your body like it belongs to someone you love. Contact Health Driven today at 225-242-9817. That's 225-242-9817. You haven't tried the best until you have tried T-Monique Natural and organic hair product-based company, leaving it soft, smooth, and moist. Shop now online at www.tmoniquenaturals.com. If you're looking for ways to strengthen your hair and give your natural the look that will turn heads, shop at tmoniquenaturals.com.